Guys, I'm just going to talk about really a journey of self-discovery. I'm a young person, and I see a lot of young people in the room. And I think it's a really important conversation because the journey of self-discovery, or the journey of business entrepreneurship, and is really a journey of self-discovery. And I think that's a critical aspect of things. So my name is Bataung Qhotsokoane. So my slogan, right? So I've got a personal slogan. You know how Nike has got a slogan, Adidas has got a slogan. So I've got my own personal slogan. My own personal slogan goes like, believing in your ideas is believing in yourself. You know what I mean? It's very important to believe in your own ideas because what you think about in the morning, in the afternoon, that's your identity. You understand? So when you believe in that and execute that, the more you start finding your purpose and the more you start discovering yourself. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So, talking about self-discovery. So there's this battle in my head, right? I'm not really too sure, and you'll tell me after this conversation. I'm not really too sure if I'm an entrepreneur, and I'll tell you why. I think through the story that I'm going to tell you guys, you'll discover why. I'm not really too sure if I'm an entrepreneur. I do know what I love. I do know what I love doing, and I think that's how I identify myself vis-a-vis, all these different titles and whatnot, So a very important thing I want to introduce you to, because that's how I self-determine myself, self-identify myself. I'm an Afrofuturist. I don't know if you guys have heard of futurism or Afrofuturism. None of that. Okay, well, I'm going to teach you guys this. So an Afrofuturism basically is a philosophical school of thought, right? An Afrofuturist is a person that identifies through this zeitgeist of thinking, right? It says we borrow African customs and you look to the past, which is your custom, traditions, and your cultures, Africans, the places that you come from is bongo sako, and, right? You use that, and then through the lens of looking in the future, you use technology and innovation to really self-determine what a future African society looks like, So the nice, beautiful thing about Afrofuturism, it really borrows from who you are and always looks to the future. How does the African state of 2050 look like? How does African society in the context of AI looks like? Because a lot of these things that we debate with, or as technology startups, which I come from the technology frame, we neglect the people aspect. So the way I look at it, it's a triangle, right? It's technology, people, and processes. And I'm going to keep coming back to this triangle of technology, people, and processes. The people part is very, very, very important. Technology doesn't exist for the sake of itself. It exists for people. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start my journey from this point. So I studied law at the University of the Free State. After studying law, through my journey at university, there was two pivotal things that happened. One was becoming on the SRC, the Student Representative Council, and I got elected there. And then as a result of that, right, I then underwent a program called the Global Leadership Program. At the time, our Vice Chancellor and Rector was Professor Jonathan Jansen. He's quite a well-known figure in the political landscape and academia landscape, right? So he's an alumni of Stanford University. So when he came, he started this global leadership program, taking student leaders and also F1 students, first-generation students overseas, and, right? So I was a recipient of that program. Cool. So in that program, we went to the USA for 1 month. We went to 3 places. We went to Palo Alto in San Francisco. So when you talk about Silicon Valley, you're actually talking about Palo Alto. It's like a suburb in San Francisco. It's close to the Stanford University. So that's where we went to. We went to Berkeley, and we also went to UCLA in Los Angeles, right? Cool. So we were there for like a month. The second most pivotal thing was during that global leadership program. What happened in that global leadership program was that while in Palo Alto, we went to Facebook, Intel, and, right? Mind you, background story. I was studying law, so I had an appreciation for technology, but I was never really considering a career in technology at the time. My mind was with law, that's what I was studying, case law, court, that was my thing, you know. So I remember something very important happened. While in Intel, the company Intel, the chip microprocessing company, right? Chip manufacturing company. Intel, when you walk into the Intel offices, there's sort of like a museum over the years, what they've done, how big the first chip was to what they have now, you know, all these advanced processing chips that they've got. So I remember they had a really big chip, like a massive one, right? So this was the first microprocessing chip that Intel had made for commercial purposes. It was in 1971. So I'm looking at this chip, I'm like, geez, bro. And in my mind, the first thing I think about is like, you know, in 1971, in South Africa, what were we doing in South Africa? You know, at the time, the ANC was underground, we were doing, was apartheid, and all these things were happening. We were fighting for freedom. And I thought to myself, I mean, for the right reasons, you know, but I thought to myself, geez, man, when, you know, other countries were technologically advancing at such a level like that, we were busy with doing and just, you know, trying to get political rights. And it really clicked to me because literally all our cell phones and computer chips and tablets and even our cars today, they use these, you know, computer chips that we all love. So it really got me to thinking, right? So that was the most fundamental thing. Apart from that, I think while I was in Silicon Valley, what I saw was the economy around technology. And I was like, okay, cool. I was sold and I said, I want a piece of this thing. You know what I mean? At the time, I didn't really know how and when and how I was going to find myself in it, but I knew that this is what I want to do, you know? And I think the story that I'm going to tell you is the story of that, you know, eventually going on this path of self-discovery and really finding your purpose. And I'll tell you why I say finding your purpose is a matter of life and death. And I mean that literally, I don't mean that figuratively. Because a lot of people that have existential problems, you know, suicide and is because they haven't really found their purpose. They rather focus on happiness. And I don't subscribe to that school of thought, but I'll teach you guys. I'll just share with you guys on that. Okay, cool. So I come back from LA, come back for USA. So years pass. At university, I go through academic exclusion and financial exclusion, right? So I don't finish my degree. Now, I'm at home. I didn't finish my degree. I'm chilling. I'm thinking, geez, okay, cool. What do I do now? So then that's when that technology thing clicked, you know? And I remember there was a friend of mine, Bataung Qhotsokoane at the time. He was doing digital marketing, right? And so I told myself there was a friend, so that's my friend, right? Bataung Qhotsokoane was doing digital marketing. So another friend of mine said, hey man, why don't you come to Joburg? You know, I was still in Bloom at the time. Why don't you come to Joburg, come take a break, and just come figure things out. Cool, I go to his place. While I'm there, I meet Bataung. I'm like, yo bro, remember that thing you used to tell me about digital marketing and this, that, and the third? Can you put me on to that? Like, what is this? Explain this thing to me, you know? And then he started explaining what digital marketing is, optimization, and. And that literally was my point of entry. So the company that he was working for had an academy. The name of the company was Digify Africa, and then that's how I landed my first sort of entry understanding into technology. You know what I mean? That's why I say I identify myself as an Afrofuturist, because in as much as, you know, you have to learn how to run a business, but my love has always been technology. And I think within that technology, people, and process, how I'm just going to tie it in, I think the technology part is very important, right? I don't come from a tech background. I come from a legal background. I had to build up the acumen, right? And I've built that over a period of time. I got my industry certifications and to understand the acumen. So you can lead a team of technical people that have done technology all their lives, you know? But I think where I've excelled in, you know, is understanding processes. Because of my legal background, there's something beautiful thing about law that teaches you about processes, how society functions, why does it function that way, and what are the building blocks of every institution, right? But I think also the other key stroke of genius is being able to understand people. People is very important. Guys, let me tell you, in my whole entire journey up until this far, the biggest fundamental thing that I've realized a lot of tech founders have problems in is matching technology processes with people. Either selling products and services to people, either attracting sales because you're selling to people. Technology doesn't just exist for the sake of existing. So you can build this awesome product, this awesome technology feature, but if there's no people to sell it to, if you can't sell it to people, if you can't make people understand why they need this or interact it with people's lives, it won't make sense. Am I making sense? So that is the fundamental thing. And I think outside of that, I'll be very honest with you. Because guys, life is very uncertain, right? Your people networks is really what makes you survive. You know, whether it's through finding jobs, whether it's through tenders and or procurement in corporate, you know, it's really through people. Your people currency is what's going to make you sustain. You know, like I said, if I don't like walking, okay, let me put it like this. There's only two reasons why how you get money, right? I give you money because I trust you. I give you money because I know you. Trust is built within a good product. You know what I mean? When they talk about economies and GDPs and all these economic terms, what they're really saying is that an economy are people transacting. That's what it is. It's not this, there's all GDPs and all these fancy terms, but it's really people transacting every day. So the people element is extremely important. Last three insights, and then I'm going to close it off. I think from my journey, guys, and I think from my blunders, this is what I've ideally learned. One, happiness should never be the goal. I think we spend too much time saying chase happiness, even to little kids, you know, choose your career based on happiness. I think that's a lot of crap. Purpose is what should guide you. Happiness is very fickle. I'll tell you why. Happiness is extremely fickle. It's like when you're being in love. You feel happy for a moment, and then your boyfriend does something, and then you're angry at him, and then it's, you know what I mean? It's very fickle. It goes up and down. There's too much uncertainty to always chase happiness. Purpose is what's going to build you. Do you understand? When you chase purpose, you start going on the path of individuation. Individuation is the path of becoming unique. The more you chase on your purpose, the more you as an individual become more unique, and the better you start feeling. Why do I mean better? Because people start realizing the value, and you start being satisfied because people can see the value that you're providing. Does that make sense? So happiness is a thing. So yeah, it's not a thing for me. Then the last thing, I think, being able to differentiate these two things. A lot of people identify themselves in different ways. There's a discovered self and a perceived self, right? Okay, I'll tell you where I get these things. Guys, one of my biggest assets generally is philosophy. So I don't know if you know about this philosophical school of thought, but Google search it. I'm telling you, in this talk, if that's all you get, then I've done my work. It's called stoicism. I'm a big fan of Stoic, you know. Your Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, there's a lot of Stoic literature. And Stoicism helped me through the most difficult times in my life. It really shifts the way of thinking. So there's this concept of a discovered self and a perceived self. Perceived self are people that identify themselves through the places that they live, the clothes that they wear, the cars that they drive, the type of wife that he has, the address, there's people that love Gucci, Louis Vuitton. That's how they discover, that's how they identify themselves and the famous people that they know. The problem with that is very dangerous because we live in a very uncertain time, right? So when those things get pulled, beneath your feet, you literally break down because you don't have that car anymore. And the reason why I'd say this, we live in a very uncertain time, guys. It's not a matter of if it will happen. It's just a matter of when. Do you understand? Petrol prices are going up, this, that, and the third. We could have another coronavirus. There's a war in Ukraine. There's all these things happening that can influence our lives. So a discovered self is just a complete opposite of that. A discovered self is identifying yourself through things that you have control over. What do we mean? Your intelligentsia, you know what I mean? Your academia, what knowledge you keep packing to yourself, onboarding to yourself, You discover, you identify yourself through your unique talents and gifts. Because why? Once you have these things that are subjective to yourself, it doesn't matter what environment. You could move from here to Nigeria. Let's say there's a war in South Africa. You could move from here to Nigeria and still create a new life for yourself, because you identify yourself through the talents and gifts and the innate ability, the things that you keep onboarding, talents and gifts and your education and to keep identifying yourself and, reinventing yourself.